I made hundreds of thousands of dollars wholesaling real estate. It allowed me to travel anytime I want. It allowed me to work from anywhere. I did build some great relationships, and obviously, I learned a lot, not just about wholesaling, but real estate in general. So, why would someone who has all those good things to say about anything stop doing that one thing? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this video, guys. So we're going to go through how I started, my experience from a financial standpoint and just in general, and the reasons that I decided to stop. And so to hear those reasons, make sure you stick around. So before we jump into that, I want to give you guys a little life update as well. So I drove this thing all the way from Sierra Vista, Arizona to here where I am now, which is San Francisco. It was about 1,000 miles. Here's the path I took right here. Crazy part about that is I've never driven on the freeway before I did the road trip on a motorcycle or a bike. So that was pretty crazy. Good experience. The reason I moved here will become clear to you towards the end of the video as I start breaking down some other things. But it's not what this video is about. So let's get into it. Why did I stop wholesaling real estate? So let's go all the way back to how and why I started wholesaling real estate in the first place. I'll start with why, because there was no ethereal reason as to why I decided to get into the space. It was all based on money at the time. I had a stint with Heartland Payment Systems, which is a payment processing company. And just as you would expect when you're working for, if you're a guy like me at least, and you're working for any company, you just are never fulfilled no matter what. Yeah, you might have fun, you might meet some good people. The fulfillment is just not there. And so I stumbled upon a guy called Max Maxwell back in 2019. No, in 2018, I stumbled across Max Maxwell. And, I just enjoyed his content. And honestly, the thought I had was, man, if all these guys can make some money in the space, I know I can make a lot of money here, 100%. And so, September 19th, it was September 19th, 2019, I decided to just start. It was actually on a Sunday. I called a random seller off of Zillow. If you know anything about the space, yeah, it didn't work out already. But anyway, I called a random seller off of Zillow. Her name was Catherine. Immediately, I agreed to her price. It was $195,000. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And so I ended up phoning a few individuals to help me out. Long story short on that end, the deal fell through, but it gave me confidence in terms of the effort that I put in, I can control. It gave me confidence that I can make something happen, even getting to the point where I got to with the little help that I did in the beginning. And so I kept going. Now, months went past and I didn't make anything happen. And then my partner and I, at the time, we finally were able to get a deal closed. And that deal was worth exactly $10,750. And so, if you go from watching YouTube videos and they always talk about this $10,000 figure, and then now you make that number, you're pretty convinced at that point. So you can imagine what was going through my head, right? So that first check was $10,750, and it made your boy feel good, okay? And then going into 2020, I'm thinking things are gonna go parabolic, yeah? So it didn't really go parabolic at all. It was pretty mediocre 2020. I think that year we did about 7 deals, so nothing crazy, right? 2021 was a lot better in terms of income. That year we did about $224,000 in assignment fees. Now, because my partner had a really good job and we didn't have a huge marketing budget, I actually paid myself a lot of that. And at the time, I thought I had found pretty much the perfect business in terms of I'm not too emotionally invested. I can make all the money I want and do whatever I want. So, things were pretty damn good. Better now, but yeah, they were good. Things were good. I kind of had a cheat code in 2020. I guess I can drop this name here. I was working with Amherst a lot, and so they bought pretty much every property that I got under contract. In that year, I only did 11 deals, but those 11 deals were worth $224,000. And like I said, I had a cheat code just because Amherst, they were buying a lot at that time. So through that, obviously the most natural progressive step would be you starting to pick up rentals as an investor, yeah? And naturally, I'm just a more long-term thinker anyway, so that made more sense for me to start looking at basically keeping the wholesale side for cash flow and then just reinvesting that into rentals for the most part. And there's a very specific way I wanted to acquire these properties as well. So that way I'm not reinvesting everything that I'm making. And that's, you guys probably heard of it by now for sure. And that's creative finance. And creative finance, you can look at it like this. You're negotiating a deal directly with the seller with terms that you negotiate between you two. The only reason it's going to title or escrow is for record keeping and to eliminate trust. But other than that, it's just a transaction between you and the seller, and it's cutting out the bank. And so the terms could vary so much. So I don't want to go through any of the terms, but just remember, a basic way to look at this is a transaction between you and the seller, cutting out the banks. If you haven't heard of Pace Morby, go watch him. He's great, obviously, and you're going to learn the most from him in terms of creative finance. But moving on, don't get me wrong, wholesaling real estate has brought me financial freedom that I never had before. I can tell you a quick story. I was in Denver, Colorado with a few friends at a pub. It was outside. It's like at the top of a mountain. It was pretty amazing. And so we're all having some beer. I was having an IPA. I hate IPAs. It's super disgusting. But anyway, having an IPA, and I get a call from a seller in Laveen, Arizona. This is like in Phoenix, for those of you who don't know. I get a call. Long story short, we talked for about 30 minutes. At the end of that call, he signed the contract. I already had the buyer for it. This was in my Amherst days. So I already had the buyer, and he signed the contract. My spread on that was $38,000, and I made that sitting at a pub drinking beer. And so I thought that was pretty amazing. I'm just saying. So at that point, I'm like, damn, there's no way I would ever do anything else. It doesn't make sense. $38,000 while drinking beer? It felt pretty amazing. Probably because I was a little intoxicated too. So you could imagine that at that time, there was nothing else that I really imagined doing outside of what I enjoyed already, and I was already doing for years, which we're going to get into, so be patient. So why would I stop or get out of a business that's paying me hundreds of thousands of dollars per year? I have my time freedom. I have financial freedom. Why would I stop? One thing you'll learn about me, guys, is I don't like to do things that I don't enjoy. And the things that I do enjoy, I make that shit work. So there became a point where I started to kind of just have like, I don't even know what to call it. I was just relaxing, guys. I mean, I had the cash. I was taking my woman at the time. We went shopping a lot. We traveled a ton, and I just kind of got complacent. Now it's hard for me to get complacent because I love progressing. What that exposed to me is that I didn't really love the business as much as I thought I did. It was literally just because I was making money and I had time freedom. And so things were feeling good, but I started waking up late. I'm an early riser. I started sleeping in. I started drinking a lot more as well and smoking a lot. And things were just, in my life, not going well. Although the bank account was sitting pretty fat, sitting fat. And so through that experience, I genuinely learned that it's even difficult for me to sustain things just for the money. I have to enjoy it or else it's going to end. Or I'm gonna just fuck it up somehow, right? So why did I stop wholesaling real estate? Now, I don't want to offend anyone, so don't get your panties in a bunch when you hear this, okay? So there are 4 main reasons as to why I decided to stop wholesaling real estate. The first being, I felt like I was dumbing myself down, guys. To be honest, I enjoy having stimulated conversations. I enjoy speaking with intelligent people. I enjoy learning from folks, right? And so if every day I'm surrounded by, for lack of a better word, very basic folks who see no value in putting time into themselves, and when I say themselves, I really mean their minds. It's hard for me to sustain that. It's hard for me to get value from that. And let's be real, real estate, anybody can do real estate. I mean, that is very true. And so you get anybody in the space. And sometimes, it's just, gosh, you wonder why people think the way they do and whatnot. But you get some characters in the real estate space because it is one of those industries where, kind of anybody can do it. And so the shit plays out that way, okay? And coming from finance, payments, economics, crypto to wholesaling real estate and being in that environment and dealing with the culture all the time, it was a little weird. At first, obviously, I can manage. And every once in a while, you get that golden nugget of a person who's amazing in various ways, and they get the business in totality, and they don't only go as far as wholesaling. That's probably your number one tell right there. If you're experiencing the same thing in terms of you're feeling like you're dumbing yourself down. Number two, kind of, these 2 points go hand in hand. I just didn't enjoy the culture as much. It's almost like a foundational piece, a mental foundation in the space is trust issues, actually. So I had a stint wholesaling in Detroit, and pretty much everyone had trust issues. Everyone. Like, it was insane. And it made business very hard to do sometimes, just because they would require so many extra steps because they didn't trust anyone, because bad experiences happened, or whatever the reason for not trusting you. And although I never truly had a problem with people trusting me, it did cause a lot of problems because they didn't trust someone else, or shit, even I didn't trust someone because I heard something on their reputation. So it just made a deal not the most ideal. Also, you get a lot of fakies. Now, what I mean fakies is that, look, you get some folks who are straight brokies, and they'll tell you, hey, I'm doing 13 deals a month. A common number you'll hear if you're still in this space is, oh, I do 3 to 5 deals a month. Some people go as far as to say, I do 10 to 15 deals a month. And they just fucking don't. They just don't at all. And you can verify that sometimes. Not all the time. You can verify it though sometimes. A lot of times these people, they're just talking because they think if they say, I do 1 deal a month, you're going to look at them and say, oh, I can't do anything with them. But it's like, it's better to be honest, because the shit's going to get exposed anyway if you don't know what the hell you're doing. And we can clearly see that you don't do 15 deals in a month or 3 to 5 deals in a month. Because guys, even if you do only 3 to 5 deals every single month, it's a lot of deals. Like, you're busy if you're doing 3 to 5 deals, unless you got a whole team under you. So you're busy. So you're going to know the ins and outs of these transactions like no other if you're doing 3 to 5 a month. Most people don't do 3 to 5 a month. And most people damn sure don't do 10. They may have some good months, but the reality is it's inconsistent. Even if you do 3, you can still make a good living. Sometimes you can do 2 deals to make a good living per month. But people choose to lie about their results all the time. Realtors, that's a whole nother story. I'd rather deal with those guys in a different context. But yeah, to be short on that, they just piss me off all the time. If you guys have noticed anything about me already, I do value the intellectual side of things. I value ideas. I value people who put time into their mind. And I value folks that like to challenge themselves. I gotta be real, in wholesaling real estate, we just glorify anybody who's doing deals or doing deals, because we don't know if they're actually doing deals. But if we think they are, we glorify them. No matter the character, no matter the personality, no matter if they're low-key pretty fucking dumb, we glorify them. Third reason is inconsistency in my results despite consistent effort. I mean, guys, I had a system, I had a team. I mean, I was working every single day, Saturday, Sunday included. I was working every day. No matter where I was in the world, I worked. Whether I had to talk to a seller, talk to a buyer, comp a property, no matter what it is, I worked all the time. So the effort wasn't an issue at any point in time, ever. But over time, I started to notice basically, no matter how much effort I put in on a consistent basis, you're gonna get the results that you get. Meaning, you could work for a month straight and not get a deal. That just happens. It's part of the industry at the end of the day. Because you get some months where you do 6 deals, but then you do none next month, right? But the results were pretty inconsistent. I guess I should have combined these 2 points because it kind of goes hand in hand with this next point, in that the lack of control over deals it's actually pretty insane. So you would think that you have way more control than you do, but once it gets into title, I mean, you never know what's gonna come up. You could have liens that pop up that aren't paid or can't be paid because they're like 50 to 100K, and it'll devalue the property, or basically render the property upside down. Sometimes the seller just backs out on you. Sometimes the seller don't even own the actual property. That's happened to me before, where I've effectively been scammed. So you never know what you're dealing with a lot of the times. You only can control about 20% of each transaction. And I gotta be honest, that's not enough for your boy. And I learned that over time, because that's what's going to bring that inconsistency. If I have something where my effort translates to results more consistently, that's what makes sense for me. Because no matter what I did, I couldn't control what happened when it got into title, or I couldn't control if the seller that we were dealing with, it turns out it's not actually in his name and it's in his cousin's name or something, and they don't talk anymore. So, yeah, that makes the deal fall through because we have to go find this dude and blah, 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 and it never works out. Sometimes you got to go through a probate process, and the seller could make it difficult for you. My probates went smooth, but I've seen some probates where they just never get done. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. So yeah, I like having a little control over my business. I believe like if you have a business, you should be able to remove hope, meaning you don't need hope because you have a good idea of your trajectory and your path because you're exerting control that will produce a certain result. And you have a clear understanding and idea of that result. With wholesaling real estate, although you have a clear idea of the result, what happens in the middle a lot of the times you can't control. So that made it tough on me, man. And all in all, guys, I just felt like I didn't have a reason really in terms of business to get out of bed anymore really early. I started getting up later. I mean, they weren't ideal for me. So I just didn't feel fulfilled in any way whatsoever. And so I started working on a shift. Now, if you've been watching my channel before, then you already have a good sense and idea of what I actually enjoy speaking on and talking about and doing on a daily basis. And you can sum that up as macroeconomics. So most investors think this way. They start at the idiosyncratic point, or let's say a single stock, for example, and they move outward. Macroeconomics, you do the opposite. So you can go as far as global data in terms of global macro, but let's just say US right now. So we take everything that happens in the US. That could be data in terms of CPI, PCE, PPI, GDP, monetary policy, fiscal policy. It could be all of that. You take all that information, and once you have that info, it allows you to make an informed opinion on the direction of the economy overall. And then you can keep trickling that down to idiosyncratic stocks. And so you can determine the direction of these stocks. Direction, not price. So I enjoy investing and talking about crypto, providing liquidity in DeFi, talking about the housing market, but in terms of the macro data, stock market too, obviously. And in terms of actual investing, got a few long positions in the stock market. And also I'll be exposed to some real estate there as well. So I'm not completely getting out of real estate. Long positions in the crypto space in tandem with being a market maker or providing liquidity to some of these protocols. And as I just mentioned, I'm not getting out of real estate completely. So I'm still going to buy rentals moving forward. I do still have boots on the ground in multiple markets around the country. And so I'm not getting out of real estate completely. I'm still going to have that kind of working itself in the background, acquiring very specific rentals. I'm going to focus on the creative finance side as well, just to lower that barrier to entry in terms of cost. But yeah, guys, I enjoy macro and I like to consider myself investment agnostic, meaning I'm not sticking to one investment class. I never understood why people shit on another asset. It doesn't make any sense. So if they invest in crypto, they hate real estate and vice versa. Literally makes no sense. And with those rentals, I'm going to focus in Detroit just because that's where I'm from. I have GCs, I have boots on the ground, got realtors, got pretty much everything I need in that regard. Property manager as well, so it'll be more hands off. And you can look at it as me going long the housing market because I am long the housing market. So I just enjoy discussing the economy. I enjoy talking about the labor market. I enjoy talking about these little idiosyncratic things that happen and harping on them. I love the excitement. Day to day is something different. And it's ever changing. So it's just every day. It's constant. It's constant. It's every day. I love it. And because I'm a pretty nomadic dude, if you haven't noticed, I kind of like to just live my life. And so because of that, it's important for me to be involved in something in which I could do from anywhere. If I'm in Rome, I want to still be able to get my work done. So that's important for me. I just love my freedom, y'all. Anyway, guys, what should you expect from this channel moving forward? Well, as I just mentioned, you're gonna get a lot of macroeconomic data. So I'm going to be breaking down all these data points pretty much. And that is from the PCE, the CPI, GDP, labor market data, unemployment, the housing market still, monetary policy from the Federal Reserve, fiscal policy from the government, breaking down different talking heads and their opinions. So overall, you're gonna get a lot of value in terms of finance and economics on this channel going forward. Always pretty much starting with the Fed though, guys. You gotta be real, everything starts with the Fed. And I also think it's important to have a translator because people generally don't understand what the hell the Fed is saying because they say things like,
"We decided to keep our policy rate neutral until we decide there is sufficient data enough to reduce the restrictiveness of our interest rate policy."
So yeah, we're gonna need a translator for that a lot of times, and it gets way worse than that too. It's what you would call Fed speak. And just overall, I'll be breaking down economic data, bringing it to you. And then I'll try to implement a little more of my lifestyle too. That's easier said than done because I got to remember to record these things because I don't. But, I'm going to implement a little more of my lifestyle as well because I do a lot of shit, guys. So that should be fun. So, guys, my next video is going to be on what you would call the SOM rule, invented by Claudia Somm. The SOM rule is a recession indicator that states if the 3-month moving average moves or rises 50 basis points or more, or at least 50 basis points within a 12-month period, that indicates that we are in a recession. So it's not a forecaster, it's an indicator. So if the SOM rule were to be triggered, that means that we are actually in a recession. It's been perfect, it's never been wrong. And if you guys notice, just last week, we had the unemployment rate jump up to 3.9%. So, are we going into a recession? Or did we achieve a soft landing? That's what we're going to talk about in the next video. Anyway, guys, appreciate you as always. If you enjoy this content, make sure you leave a comment for sure. I love to get you guys' thoughts, even if it's some BS. Trust me, it's always funny. Leave a comment, tell your friends, tell your uncle, and I will see you guys as always on the next one.